All right, 3-minute chess is underway. If you're just getting here, thanks for being with us. The Speed Chess Championship rolls on here. This is deciding, by the way, who will play Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in the quarterfinals, the round of 8. So a lot at stake here. And right now, as we said, 2-game lead for the American. We'll see if Mamedyarov can prove their prediction wrong. And yeah.
And we have a different style of this queen's pawn opening in this game here. Instead of these bishop g5 lines, we've seen Mamedyarov fianchetto his bishop to g2. And when we look at a bishop like that, that diagonal is beautiful for the piece. The pawn on b7 requires the defense of the bishop on c8, but the knight on b8 will try to go to c6. But now that there's a situation on the d file where you're going to have to keep this knight protected at some moment. All right, I was going to say at some moment white might play c4 to kick the knight.
Yep.
Instead, black did it voluntarily. And not only is this bishop on g2 good, the bishop can come to c5, and 2 bishops for white, only 1 for black.
I like this line for white. And this is, especially from a 3-minute perspective, and as I look at the clock, we see Mamedyarov coming to play here, right, up on time, 15 seconds roughly, although that's, as I say it, apparently I'm jinxing it. It's dwindling away. But, yeah, I think put the bishop on c5. Now the question is, are you going to try to get rid of this knight on c4 sooner rather than later? Do you try to occupy the d5 square with the bishop or the queen?
Yeah, and sadly you can't go queen d3 here because I think there's a problem where I will take on d3 and then play knight to b2. Sort of frustrating move to meet because the d3 pawn is now vulnerable. Yeah, you can't put a rook on d1.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. So Mamedyarov taking a think here, and unfortunately, it turns out the jinx was real. He's now down on time where he was up.
Yeah, he's just freeing the d-file for a rook. So black presumably will put a bishop on e6 to defend the knight on c4, but nope.
Very soon. No, I think you're right. I think the nice thing about queen c7 is it also threatens b6 because you guarded the knight. So I think that's the idea. f4. What a double-edged move. Yeah. Opening the king and the diagonal with it.
I was not expecting that move f4.
Me neither.
And so he'll take with the rook. Now look at this pawn structure for white. a2, c3, e2, 3 isolated pawns. But he's trying to use the activity. He's a bit ahead in development. Like, look at the bishop on c8, not yet developed. He has potential to put pressure on the f7 pawn. So I guess Mamedyarov is relying on that to try to push forward into an advantageous position. But right now, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, it's a super risky way to play the whole structure. Okay, this move wants to put the knight on c5. This is the main point. But as Robert said, the king's open, the e2 pawn is now weak, and suddenly the rook on f4 feels kind of oddly out of place.
Yeah.
Given that there's no doubled pressure coming. I'm not sure how you take advantage of that. I don't think g5 would be advisable. But watch out. Yeah, the knight comes to e5. Maybe So wants to put the knight on g6 to hit the rook.
Yeah, the good news now is this rook can swing over to the queen side as well. So rook b1, rook a4 kind of stuff. You might go rook a4 now. I don't really see that many safe squares for it. So rook b1 next. Now there's some pressure on b7. So not only is the bishop on g2 eyeing down the diagonal, the knight that's being already on c5 hits b7 directly.
Yeah, I like it.
And Wesley just ran away again. He keeps doing that. Now he's back.
Where's he going? What's he doing? I never know what she's doing. Meatloaf, Mom. I never know what he's doing when he leaves the camera. Rook d1. So as we transition to an endgame, I think we have to like white a little more because the e2 pawn won't be as big of a target if the pieces are traded off. And the bishop pair is pretty nice in the endgame, right?
Yeah, and at some moment you can even consider putting your bishop on d5 and just pushing upon the c4 and e4 to cement it there. And say if you ever take it, I can get some passed pawn action. But I do like this move, queen c2. Queen can go to f5. Now it can't because the queen went to d7.
Yeah, very nice, queen d7. So Wesley owning the d file, stopping queen f5.
So how to handle this position for white? The rook on a4 is a problematic piece.
Yeah.
There's rook coming down d1 is also highly annoying.
Yeah, he plays h3 pretty much to deal with all of it, so the king has a place to tuck itself on rook d1 check.
Yeah.
But your move rook d2 might come first.
Then queen e4, I guess, just getting into safety.
Queen e4. Yeah, he likes it. He likes it. Maybe he'll... I I wonder if he could have used h4 and h5 as an idea.
But the problem is that frees the g4 square
Yeah,
for the knights.
h4 ends up weakening this key square. Okay, fair.
Yeah, I do like the bishops, but this rook on a4 is really bothering me, and I don't know how to fix it. Right? Where does that? How does the rook get back in the game? Do I go c4, rook a3, rook d3 at some moment?
So slow.
Right.
Right.
Don't
No,
judge.
it's an idea though. Maybe it'll happen. What? What'd you say?
You're like so slow, and don't judge.
Don't judge. It's an idea.
Here's
yeah.
rook
No.
a3.
It's okay. If the queens come off though, we still have to. Okay, you would normally like white with the bishop pair, but the fact that e2 is the first pawn under fire, Wesley's holding strong. The rook on d2 is super well placed. Here comes knight e5, I assume.
95 looks
right. You threaten to take the bishop.
Is he going to take on b7 though? That's the thing. Like you give up the e2 pawn, play king g1, try to win the a6 pawn. And
yeah, I like it.
That's
knight e5, bishop b7, rook e2, king g1. You can put the bishop on d4. The key is this bishop holds all the right squares, right?
Yeah. And that's the great thing about bishops, right?
Yep.
With this a pawn, once I take your a6 pawn, if my pawn gets pushed, your knights have a very hard time trying to corral that pawn, whereas bishops can protect from very far away.
This is going to be a fun finish here. Both sides now roughly 30 seconds left. You've got the rook and the two knights trying to take advantage of the open king, while the bishop pair tries to do their long-term work, as we see right there. The bishop pair reminder basically means you have two bishops versus either two knights or a knight and a bishop for the opponent, and often in open positions they are favored. But like we said, this is going to be super double-edged here because these knights centralized are going to try to take advantage of the situation with the king. Okay, I like Mamedyarov. We've been
Whose
saying
king is worse? That's what I'm trying to figure out now. Now black is okay, but
really?
I don't mean like okay in terms. The king is okay. The position
Okay.
still looks quite shaky.
Yeah. No, but we do like the fact we've been kind of saying if we get to the end game here, the bishop pair will be better because it's an open position. The graphic we just showed you, right? So as Mamedyarov has been able to get to the end game and keep the rook and knights at bay, he should be okay.
So king.
He goes for it.
Rook d2 check.
King c1. This would be a good
Knight
place
d3
to start.
check.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
It might not be mate, but there are a lot of checks happening here.
Feels like mate, right? I mean, where's the mate?
Rook b2.
King a1.
Rook c2.
Knight d2.
Oh, gosh.
Threatens rook b1.
Knight.
Check and knight c1. It's mate.
Oh, my gosh.
No?
No, because king is a3.
Oh, he gets out to a3. You can play knight. No, you can't play knight c1 first. The rook hangs.
Yeah. Wow.
Wesley's going to use all his remaining time trying to win, but eventually settle on a draw. A fancy way to offer peace, right?
And was it kind of, I couldn't tell if he's upset about the result, but it did seem like Mamedyarov was the one who had all the long-term potential in the position.
Yeah, for sure. With the bishop pair, as we headed to the endgame, you expected it to be the case. So these guys are once again stalling here. I don't know that Mamedyarov knows about the rematch button.
Yeah. He's still waiting for the next game to show up. Do we think it's going to happen? Cricket. I don't know.
Paging Simon. Paging Simon.
So what do we talk about in the intro?